Now, North Korea's attempt to launch its first spy satellite into space has failed. State media says it crashed into the sea after engine and fuel problems. South Korea has retrieved part of the satellite. The US says the launch involved ballistic missile technology, which goes against UN resolutions. Pyongyang announced earlier that it wanted a satellite to monitor military activity of the United States and its allies. Well, sirens were heard in South Korea's capital after the launch. An emergency alert to evacuate from homes was then issued on mobile phones, but it was retracted 20 minutes later. Seoul's mayor has apologised for the confusion.
I woke up to the alert. It can't possibly be a war, I thought to myself, and I went back to sleep.
Honestly, I think criticism of the launch is unjust. Since North Korea is recognised by the United Nations, I think it's important that we view its actions with sincerity, whether that is related to satellites or national self-defence.
Our nation has been independent for more than 70 years now, and conflict could destroy that. I truly hope we don't repeat such miseries.
Let's hear now from Rob McBride, who has more from Seoul.
South Korea's military has confirmed that a salvage operation is now underway, and they've released photographs of what are thought to be parts of this rocket. Both they and their US allies would dearly love to have any part of this rocket, or indeed part of the satellite itself, to see just how far advanced North Korean technology has become. It has been confirmed that the rocket failed probably within a few minutes of its launch early Wednesday. South Korean military say they tracked an abnormal flight path with the rocket coming down and the sea that separates the Korean peninsula from China at a point around 200 kilometers west of a South Korean island, which would put it about halfway between the Chinese and South Korean coasts. Unusually, the North Koreans confirmed the failure of this rocket, which they've called the Cholimar, very quickly, saying that it was the second stage which had malfunctioned, but adding that they would be analysing just what went wrong and correct those problems, because it says it wants to try to launch a second one as soon as possible. It has made getting a military surveillance or spy satellite one of its latest military goals. But this move has been condemned by Japan, also the National Security Councils of South Korea and the United States, because this rocket uses ballistic missile technology which violates UN Security Council resolutions. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Seoul.
Yes, that's Rob McBride. Let's speak now to Mason Richey, who's an Associate Professor of International Politics at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, joins us now from Seoul. Mason, thanks for joining us here on Al Jazeera. First up, what do you make of this, and what is North Korea hoping to achieve with this?
So, my first takeaway from this is that, obviously the space launch vehicle was a failure, but we should remember that, even when North Korea has these failures, whether they be, missile failures, space launch vehicle failures, or nuclear tests that don't pan out with the yield that they want, they still learn from them. So we shouldn't simply, put a line under this and say, they failed, what a joke. They've proven that they can learn from their mistakes. In terms of what it is that they're doing, I think we should take them mostly at their word that they're attempting to place military reconnaissance satellites, at least one, and presumably several of them over time, into orbit so that they'll be able to monitor the U.S. ROC alliance. My third takeaway is that this is a violation of international law, and it should be treated seriously as such.
I have to ask about the South Korean reaction. It sounds very chaotic. You'll know more than me because you're there. Evacuation orders and then, oh, no, don't evacuate. It's all a bit of a mess, the response, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have to say, I, like everyone else here in Seoul, was woken up at 6:29 this morning with air raid sirens, followed by messages coming in sort of confusingly through the text message system here, the emergency warning messages that's passed through that told us to prepare for the elderly and the children to be evacuated. As it so happens, one of my children is actually outside of Seoul on a school trip, which was, of course, a little bit worrisome. I've been here long enough now to realize that one's first response to these should always be, should generally be to question the validity of the actual message. It's not the first time that we've had them come through, although it's the first time in a long time. So I'm a little bit out of practice in terms of my skepticism. And that's actually a bit of a worry, because you begin to condition people not to take them seriously when you make multiple mistakes like this.
I was going to say, I mean, it's two things, isn't it? It shows how twitchy the authorities are, and also, next time, will people take it seriously? And it could be a serious threat.
Yeah, if there is a serious threat and people are conditioned to ask questions first and not to follow the orders to evacuate or to shelter in safety, that difference between seconds and minutes could, for some people, make the difference between life and death. So it's something that they should definitely review, and I think that they will. They'll take this seriously, I think, and try to make sure they get it right going forward.
Mason, great to get your perspective. Appreciate that. Mason Richey, Associate Professor of International Politics at Hankuk University. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, sir.